All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Legend of the Galactic Heroes, episode 51. Reinhardt is going out himself.
Yeah, he is going to be setting a trap for Yang that he cannot ignore. He'll make him an offer he can't refuse.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, the family of Yang will not be able to stop him from taking this. Although, who knows, actually? We do have a sandwich-eating genius with Yang, as well as mercats and a whole host of other people with Yang that should make this be something where Yang has a decent chance of success, regardless of what he chooses.
And there's also the whole fact that Reinhardt, whether he is aware of this or not, has made Reinhardt an offer he can't refuse. So, you know, that's going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are so many parties that now are going to be really poised to make a play here that could change everything.
Yep.
Now, I still think that there's a little bit too much at play here to where it's going to go with everyone's little schemes, you know, being enacted. Like, some of them might be like, ooh, this is a good... No, I hesitated. I lost my chance.
Sure.
Something like that, you know?
Uh-huh.
And also, Reinhardt's was something of where he was more of like, what if, you know?
Uh-huh.
Rather than deciding that he was going to do it.
Yeah, like,
so, yeah.
Because who knows? Like, it might be something where he looks at it and he's like, yeah, I could do that, but I don't think that would work out well. Like, Reinhardt's actually good enough that it wouldn't really change anything.
Right,
who
like,
knows?
what if Reinhardt is actually one of the first people to go in and ends up being the one that is heralded as the, you beat Admiral Yang. You beat Yang, you know, in
would,
fleet combat or something.
That would surprise me.
You get all the praise or something.
That is possible.
Yeah.
That is possible.
But
even Battlefield.
Who knows?
Reinhardt versus Yang. Let's see it.
This is going to be what we've waited for a long time.
I
hope they at least get into it a little bit in this episode, although
even if
there
it's
might
not resolved.
Right, yeah. Even though there might be more of the strategic and tactical kind of discussions that need to happen from Yang's side of things.
Sure.
When the bait is cast or the bait is set out in front of him.
Yeah.
So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion.
Okay.
All right, we have
Battle
the engagement.
Begins. Yep.
Oh my God. See what I did there?
Oh.
The engagement.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You were waiting to use that one, weren't you?
So, yeah, we have Yang and Frederica Greenhill now engaged to be married.
Yep.
Which is adorable. It's awkward. It's potentially breaking some rules regarding relationships and military dynamics and stuff, but who knows? The point is that
it's
that's
the end
happening.
of the world, you know, so
they could all be dead in the next, few days.
Exactly.
So let's get this stuff out of the way here.
Yep.
I liked that Julian was revealed to have had a crush on Frederica. They spent a lot of time together.
Yep.
She showed him some very, I would say, like, kind, preferential treatment with regards to the fact that he is one who's close to Yang, so it makes sense because she's had a crush on Yang for a while now. And then when everything capitulates, of course, her passions are going towards Yang, not towards this younger, boy.
And the fact that we didn't fully realize this until now, I feel like that could also be Julian not fully realizing it until now, until he gets the drink and then he starts drinking it, and it's not like he throws it all back immediately, but he starts drinking and he just keeps drinking until it's gone.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. And then it's same reason you took it all, before we got the chance to toast, and it's
like these feelings. I don't like them. Let's drink them away.
Right.
Yep. Poor guy. I feel
you carry
for him.
after Yang.
Yep. You carry after Yang in more ways than you think. And there you go.
Yep.
On the combat side of things, with Yang and Reinhardt finally now having a full-on fleet-to-fleet battle that is just them against each other with their subordinates and everything, it's perfect. It's perfect. This is something that we've been waiting for. It's been built up for so long since the movie. The very beginning, we now get to see what these two geniuses throwing everything they've got at each other head-to-head is going to look like.
Yep.
So far, I would say that things are slightly tilted in Yang's favor because of Reinhardt's subordinates, which is nice to see in that while Yang does have a substantially smaller force. He's outnumbered by about 10, percent or so, which is, not a small amount. It's
right. That can add
closer
up
to like 12 or 14%. But that bit adds up over time when you're engaged in massive fleet-to-fleet engagements. Now, they're doing things a little bit more conservatively, which means that this is a battle that might end up being drawn out a bit longer than Yang wants.
Right. 2 days.
Which, yeah.
Like, we don't know, like, at what point the missive will go out for them to come back. Like, it might be even a set time. Who knows? Like, if you don't hear in, after 18 hours,
right.
or something, like they don't necessarily even know when the fight starts. Yeah.
Right. It might be that they, like you said, they were having some kind of constant communication, and then after a point,
once the communication stops or something,
you count a certain amount of time, days, or what have you, and then they head on back. But given that we know what's going on with Reuenthal, at the very least with what he's thinking about, it's a question as to which fleets, if any, will come back. So that's interesting.
And given the fact, so this is something that did really surprise me about how they ended up doing it. I like it as a forcing function of Reinhardt going towards Hyneson, because it's basically saying, hey, you must do this now, right? Yep. Because theoretically, Yang could just say, no, I'll do it another time. I'll keep waiting, and eventually you'll have to do that again if you don't want me to keep picking you off. And then the supply lines and everything, right? I'm drawing it out. That's bad for you, right?
Right.
But by going after Hyneson, he has to actually, address it immediately.
Yep.
But by doing that, Doppler effect. Reinhardt is not at the center of all the fleets that have been leaving. So certain fleets will take longer to show up than others. And Reuenthal could always stop certain fleets from being able to, like, I want to know where Reuenthal and Mittermeier are on that ring.
I would say they are the first ones flanking him left and right.
That's what I would think,
be my
too,
guess.
Because they would be the ones that would the most helpful to come back. But that also means that is the biggest potential swing for when they don't.
Exactly.
Right? Even if they just don't show up,
it could be 50% of the initial reinforcements don't show up in time.
But they could also, be like, oh, no, there's been a new command or whatever. Reinhardt saying,
that would be dirty.
Or
especially if one fleet is responsible for relaying info back to the other ones.
Or just being like, no, we're actually, you'll have to get through us if you want to get to Reinhardt.
Now, to be fair, the visual that they gave was what the Alliance's info was. That is not necessarily where their fleets fully went.
Sure.
They could have data that suggests that that's the trajectory that they took, but after they reached a certain point, then they kind of situated themselves in empty space, waiting for their order.
Yeah, they know where Reinhardt is, so they're like, okay, cool, we're going to then circle back around. Because, and again, this is one of those things where depending on how communication works in this universe, who knows, because they might not have the range to be able to maintain communication with them, or maybe it's something where, because of how sensor technology works, they would actually, because Reinhardt actually had to find Yang.
Yep.
Right? It wasn't something where it's just, oh, hey, we're able to detect the heat signatures or whatever from 15,000 ships.
Yep.
It's the, okay, send out, scouts are sent out and everything, well, by Yang, because he wants this to happen as fast as possible. Right. And then it's the, oh, watch the scouts as they go back.
Yeah. So right now, with the way things are going here, we've got our little galaxy map here that's really helpful, sent to us by a community member. The battle is at Vermilion.
Right.
Which has no direct route to Hyneson.
Even though it is close.
Even though it is one of the closest planets to Hyneson, if not the closest one, system-wise. So, therefore, Vermilion was the last safe spot I think they could have engaged Reinhardt's fleet. However, there is a lot of blank space surrounding Vermilion. So I'm guessing that's why they don't have necessarily the best updated information regarding Reinhardt's other admiral's fleet, and this gap of space where there's no routes specifically could be just where he has stationed a lot of the fleets there.
Sure, potentially.
And then it's not about whether or not Reinhardt will have a fleet at the end of this. It's about whether Yang will be able to escape.
Right.
And thus, if they position it in a certain way where they can't completely encircle him, they'll maybe want to push him maybe just to Hyneson, where they go, oh, that's cool and all, but now you have to rough jump to Hyneson, and all our objectives are now in one basket, and our follow-up will be the victory, even if we don't catch you here. Sure. Because at the very least, both Reinhardt's fleet and Yang's fleet will have gone through a multi-day, drawn-out battle that will have exhausted supplies, men's morale, fatigue, mental capacity, everything.
I'm very curious about how that is going to come into play, because it's given me vibes, not because it's similar, but just because it's a similar struggle of like the 39 hours or whatever from Battlestar Galactica episode, where it's like where it's
33, but
33, right? Yeah, that's what it was. Where it's the we just need to endurance figure out how to make this work, right?
Right.
And
I would say it'd be bridge rotations. I would guess what you would have is you would have different people helming the main command of things, and then every like 3 days they switch, with like, and they give people basically like 6-hour breaks.
But like even with the crew, like I'm guessing they don't have enough people on each of the ships to be able to.
No, the crew is where there's no hope really. You have to find some way to make it work.
Reinhardt's got his easy chair, and so, and they're used to this. They train for this kind of stuff. So and it is not as, even though it is mentally incredibly strenuous, it's not like physical combat, right?
Right. That's
which probably helps a lot.
The difference is the fighter pilots. That's the part of where I like the idea of them bringing up Konev and Poplin, and we're getting to see them kind of talking about their R&R and stuff, because their job probably has the most physical aspect to it. While
even though they're in space, they're still in an accelerating vehicle.
Yeah, they should be experiencing G forces and stuff, just like most. Well, not necessarily the exact same as a fighter pilot.
Yeah, not the same, but still similar. Because if there's fast acceleration, their body is still moving. It's simulated
resistance
gravity basically at that point. Yeah,
exactly. But like, so I could see there being a thing of where they're like, we're dipping into reserves now. The ones that are not able to be deployed are now being called in. We'll be able to run this simulated thing for the next, 4 days or something. But at that point, everyone will start taking a point of exhaustion and, disadvantage on, all those kinds of things and stuff. So jokes aside, we already know that there's a time limit because of the fact that they're going to get reinforcements eventually, because this is probably a trap, which, Yang, of course, thought of, and even Julian thought of. So they're prepared for that. But also there is the exhaustion time limit in combination with that. It's just a question of which one will hit first. Now, I have heard stories of soldiers, and this is,
reality is stranger than fiction.
Reality is stranger than fiction, where they've gone, 5 to 7 days without sleep.
Right.
Like doing like crazy campaigns and stuff like that. And this is stuff that where it did damage them. Like
for sure.
It broke a little bit of their physical, like.
Oh yeah, you don't do that without having some lasting consequences.
Right,
but they were able to do it.
Like what I heard more specifically was that there were more times where it wasn't that the campaign itself was that long. It was that what happened in there took them 4 days or 5 days or so, but then they went another day without sleep because of how freaking traumatized they were from the actual thing there. So it's like it gets a little bit dicey there.
Thankfully, in this situation, if they get anything that would traumatize them, that means they're probably going to die shortly after anyways.
Because everyone dies on the one ship. There's no like survivors of a ship that we've seen.
It's
really
space,
I mean, I'm sure they have the Star Wars escape pod equivalent on some ships.
Some sealed off section of the ship that drifts around for a while until it either gets blasted into smaller debris
or they run out of oxygen.
Or they run out of oxygen or whatever. But yeah, and I really liked that they showed the brutality of how it could get on the ships. Not just from, the person who's lost the bottom half of himself and is calling for his mother, or the people that get melted as the ship burns, but they're still alive. But the things of the people running to another part of the ship and sealing the other people off because that part of the ship is breached or something, and it's and they just sort of cannibalize each other basically because war is brutal, right? And while our main characters can sit in the command posts and everything and issue their directives and whatnot, there are guys trying to push their intestines back into their stomachs, right? And all you see is ships, but this is millions of people fighting and a lot of them are dying.
Yeah. I liked the narrator's little monologue here about the idea of justice and faith being cruel and the most bloodthirsty because, people are going to enact these high ideals, but then must sacrifice tons of human life in order to make these ideals a possibility. And it very much reminds me of the genius of Griffith's character in Berserk, but it was something that was interesting that the show kind of drew a point to show how Reinhardt had made a point to basically say, no, I'm different from those rulers because I'm right here on the battlefield with you. I am the one that is potentially sacrificing everything alongside you in order to make this possible.
And yet he's then
turtling. Well, he is sacrificing them for the sake of his ideal, even though he is with them in that and thus is offering himself as a sacrificial token. It is something where he needs to make a point of showing his men, not just saying that he's going to do this when he actually leads them in this battle here. And I liked that they then took the difference between him and Yang, who would actually be feeling so much guilt at the idea that him, the historian, the one that is such a massive critic of war in general, is the one who is instigating so much violence and death for the purpose of his ideal that he talked about with Shenko in the beginning bit, which might not even be something that is possible. Like, he might not really be fighting for something worth saving.
Well, so the possible and then worth it, because, surely the worst democracy is, better than the best, autocracy, right? So, I'll fight to preserve Job Trunit's democracy.
Yeah. I want to bring up something here that might be kind of a fun, just dumb theory. I think the narrator is not a character in the story at all. But it would be cool that, on some level, the narrator is someone who was told a bunch of things about this.
The legend,
from people who gave physical, accounts. First-person accounts. So the idea that Julian could have told the narrator character who's eventually recounting all this.
Right, and because we skip 200 years in the future after this is all done to someone else that's watching the history of these people.
Right, but the reason why I say that is because the narrator basically gives imperfect perspective on the idea of Yang having appeared to be unable to completely put his art in order, which is a weird kind of language choice to
for that kind of third-person omniscient perspective.
Yeah, you'd think they were omniscient, right? But no, apparently they're not.
And that might just be stating it's really saying this is what the people around him observed.
Yes, which is something that works to given the language. But that's why this is just a kind of a
it still stands out.
It's kind of a crackpot theory in that regard. But it stands out compared to the usual language that's used.
Right.
Yeah. But okay, this is Battle of Vermilion Part 1. Oh my God. A little thing about the Shenko and Yang conversation. One of the things that's been interesting about Shenko compared to Yang is that Shenko kind of has this we ran away from all that. We were not interested in rejoining the Empire. But the Empire is under a new regime, and things have gotten better in the Empire in that regard there. But then he's asking Yang, after Yang asks him, first up, do you think we can win? And he's like, well, if you really intend to win, then yes.
Yeah.
Which is kind of bringing up something that I think Yang's had to deal with, is the idea that to differentiate him from Shenko is I think Shenko's the kind of person that would do whatever it takes to win.
Sure.
And that is the essence of kind of how he was raised, probably. His family did whatever it took to be free of the Empire.
Right. And he mentioned that if you were just like any other old soldier who did whatever it took to win, I wouldn't really be asking this question.
Right.
Or
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you're not actually that. And then when he says, I do want to win from the bottom of my heart. And he says, you shouldn't try to get others to believe in things you don't believe yourself.
Yeah.
That would have been effective at inciting me if you were a simple career soldier only thought of winning. So incidentally, if you're a man with unshakable faith in your personal sense of justice, responsibility, that too would have really spurred me on. However, you're the type of man to completely doubt yourself, even in the heat of battle. Yep. And we just had earlier in the episode a moment where we had the heat of the moment where he was doubting himself, putting all this self-deprecative stuff about how it was improper or he's not really, everything that she needs necessarily. He's 7 years older. It's
and I'm your commanding officer, so But at the same time, I would rather regret saying it than regret not saying it. So
will you marry me?
Yeah. And then she's like, I think our pensions could handle it.
Right. I think if we combined our resources, you and I could just do great. We wouldn't get hungry in our old age.
That is such a great way to basically say yes to Yang's,
because she considered it a yes.
Right. But of course
he was like, but you haven't given me your
actually said yes. Like,
it's such a guy thing. That was so good.
Oh yeah,
because he's literally like, I am only hearing the words yes and no right now,
and I'm not hearing
either. This is really freaky.
Right, because with yes, you would think they would obviously say yes, right? Yeah. But with no, they might be hesitant to actually say the word no, so they'd decorate it with a bunch of other things. Right. So it's like, hold on, shit, did I, Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then a man who believes not in himself, but who always emerges victorious. For a man who believes only in righteousness, that must be a hard existence to justify. I love this little bit here because we just went through the whole thing, or actually no, we then show it later. The idea of what happens with basically someone who believes only in righteousness and their cause and all of that.
Yep.
It's hard to look back on it and justify a lot of the things that you did, for that righteousness, because can someone truly be fully righteous and actually act out in something that would be with right standing with regards to, some kind of absolute morality or any kind of objective truth or something like that? So Yang is the complete antithesis to all of that. He despises the idea of these perfect systems and these absolutes and all of that.
And yet he believes that war is absolutely awful.
Right. And here he is about to go commit the absolutely awful because this worst democracy is worth protecting. I love Shenkov's doing this because if I didn't know any better and I was looking at this a little bit more in a subversive way, I'd be like, oh no, Shenkov's trying to manipulate him and he's a spy and he's trying to undermine Yang's will. And I'm like, no. He wants to understand Yang. He wants to see him as a peer and learn a little bit more about why he is actually willing to spearhead all of this.
Well, so mind if I give a different spin on it?
Go for it, yeah.
This is a pep talk.
Totally.
I think this is a pep talk.
Okay,
He's basically seeing Yang and he's like, okay, so one, you're acting a bit different in a very high pressure situation.
Sure.
Now, I have absolute faith in you, right? You are our fearless leader. You've done absolutely fantastic. Miracle Yang, right? But you're doubting yourself in some ways that you don't usually. Because doubting yourself, you do that all the time. But now here you're trying to convince...
Oh, you're trying to convince us
that
they don't need to doubt anything.
Right, exactly. That you don't doubt. That seems odd.
I feel like he's not, though, really. I feel like it was just that instance there where he was trying to reassure Shenkov that his doubt isn't extending to the battlefield, even though he started off the question with, do you think we can win?
Right.
He's already showing that he doubts the victory and stuff like that.
So here's my read that I got on it.
Okay.
Is that Yang is wondering whether they can win, but he's also wondering whether they should win. And if he's not entirely sure whether they should win, because he did make that statement of, the worst democracy is better than the best autocracy, but he has questioned it in the past. Is the alliance needed anymore, right?
So was that a canned response he gave
felt like
because he was
a canned response because he's in front of a bunch of the other alliance people, and because he is having a potentially, over 1 million people die for it. Right? If he wasn't sure, then what's all of this been for? Should they actually even be doing this?
Right.
Would it be better? Does he want to kill Reinhardt? He knows what will happen to the Empire if he actually succeeds.
Yep.
He'll start a whole new war, right?
Yeah, there will be a brief period of peace, of, transition of power. But who will replace Reinhardt?
Well, yeah. Well,
someone not as good as Reinhardt.
Not as good as Reinhardt. There will still be the war within the Alliance and the Empire, right? Because it'll be weakening the Empire enough that war will continue. It won't be decisive.
Totally, but I was meaning that the invasion of the Alliance would basically be over.
Right. But then there'd be the whole war within the Empire again, right? Does he actually want to do that? Does he actually hold to these ideals that he has strongly enough that he believes that
millions of people in the Empire should die
to defend TrueNet? And his democracy that he has here, like,
these are impossible questions to answer with any kind of certainty, and that's why I think in some ways Yang's self-deprecation in some ways is showing that his faith is in something that history has proven is worth maybe to him putting some faith in. The idea that he's actually willing to put faith in this democratic system.
Bet on the human race kind of a thing?
Yeah. And basically saying that it's not about whether or not the, things will get worse or what have you. He's like, oh no, I know things are going to get worse with TrueNet in charge, just in general. This guy is a snake.
Yeah.
He's a pox upon democracy as a whole. One of the worst examples of that. But no, my faith is so great, actually, that I am willing to do the worst of the worst things and be basically the butcher of Reinhardt's ideals and his men and stuff like that, and also my own.
And does that kind of person deserve familial happiness?
Sure. Yeah.
It's a good question.
Yeah. And then he's like, don't you think it'll be interesting to see the end result of the worst possible democratic government? It's paradoxical, isn't it? If you want to grow the ideal democracy, or do you choose the worst democracy or the ideal autocracy? Which serves as the best soil?
Yeah.
Best soil. I love the idea of soil. Because
seeds die in the soil.
Seeds die in the soil in order they can be reborn as what they were always meant to be.
And that's why I think with this whole series being called The Legend of the Galactic Heroes, it's going to be that, 500 years later or whatever, telling the tale of Shepard. It's going to be the thing of the, they did this, and now there's this new universe that's been born from the legends. What kind of a world are we in now? What happens next?
Right.
Will it just be a repeat, or did we actually learn something?
Yep. I liked Yang's little bit of kind of letting there be a little bit of doubt, though, amongst them, because he says, if we were to actually, go to toe-to-toe with Reinhardt with even equal ships, he would destroy us. He's an unparalleled genius. And yet, the only advantage we have that is still an advantage is that they only need to take down the Brunhild, which is like, okay, yes, that's true. But just because you take down the Brunhild doesn't mean all of you are going to live.
No,
so
that just means that we'll probably be able to slaughter the rest of them while they're in disarray.
Or, at the very least, we'll be able to leave and justify a retreat.
And let the rest of them cannibalize each other.
Let the rest of them sort it out.
Yep.
Now, I have to wonder what it's like as a soldier with the idea of being
I can't imagine.
We are essentially all going at this for the whole point of potentially killing one man, and then we'll be able to make all the sacrifices of our brothers and sisters worthwhile. That just gives me chills. That's just one of those things of realizing why I mentally could never be a soldier.
Oh.
I never could. I feel like there are a lot of things that go into that with regards to breaking down those mental barriers that kind of would unlock the potential, if you will, of a soldier in someone. But I can't see that within me in the slightest bit.
That's probably why, early 20s is old, as a soldier, right? For starting.
Sure.
Like you want to get them when they're very young.
Much more moldable.
Moldable, and when everything's in black and white,
Sure.
Because then, whatever the cost is in order for this ideal, it's worth it, right?
when you see your buddy with his guts spilling out, trying to put his intestines back in, or his face is burnt off, you know that the reason why we're doing this is higher than any one man or woman's life. It's like, holy crap. Boy. That's some... wow. Yeah, I feel dirty. Hyneson actually acting upon his potential in that he's like, what if we get a score in on Yang here? Why not act of our own accord? Hey, they were given the autonomy here.
Yes.
This is part of what it means to be a commander of a fleet here.
Making decisions is a part of your job.
Right. Yes. Although I loved the idea, though, that what made it so easy for Yang to take advantage of the situation was that the fleet formations just ended up getting bottled up with each other.
Because even if you were doing a good job on your own, Hyneson, you're not the only one there.
Right.
And hey, bunching units together is asking for an AoE.
Yes, so, exactly. And when you stack this much in that regard, with communications jammed, I like that they very cleverly just kind of dropped that in there, that it's like, okay, we're relying on ships to send messengers.
Right.
This is going to come down to delegated authority. Who is going to basically handle it in the best possible way?
Yep.
Right now, I give it like a 90% chance with regards to Yang having just some better officers in his immediate, fleet here.
Yeah.
I really love the idea of Shenko, Murai, Merkats.
And who is... they're solid.
Oh, they're solid. But not only are they solid, but then we got people like freaking Sandwich Meister.
Yes.
Where is he? Where is this genius mad lad here? Where is our Sandwich Meister? Wu Chang,
yes.
Yes. The absolute goat of officers in the Alliance. Seriously.
Yeah, they even have Paeta, who's, got... He's not the best, but, he's there.
Yeah. But, okay. All right. But, here we are. Part one of the battle to potentially end all battles with regards to the Alliance and the Empire for the foreseeable future.
Yep.
I gotta say, Kazurna is probably one of those characters that is probably one of the most subtly geniusly written in the story.
Oh, yeah?
I want to bring up a little bit of just attention to his character here, in that he is the family man who has everything figured out, and yet you can kind of feel that he is callous to a bunch of things.
Sure.
Like, he takes care of the things that are in his immediate focus, and he is able to essentially let go of ideals. Maybe what it is that he doesn't feel very legendary. He feels very normal.
Exactly. And because of that, he knows sort of what he's doing. He knows what he
can and can't do.
Right. Yeah. The only rules a man needs to know are these. Yeah.
Exactly.
What he can do and what he can't do.
Great reference. Yeah.
And so for someone like Julian, who and all of them really, when they're in these high pressure situations and everything, but it might be something as simple as, oh, how do I handle this thing? I wasn't trained to handle unrequited love.
Right.
Like, okay.
Commander!
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. And he's like,
bro, just knock back another with me.
Yep.
And let me just encourage you a bit. He's like, son, I called him son.
Right.
You can bunk up with us. Yeah, you're going to do just fine. You're smart. Okay. You got a great personality. And you know what? You got a lot going for you.
There are many fish in the sea.
Right. But he's also kind of realizing, oh boy, this is a little Yang. That I get the blessing of being able to be someone that he'll listen to. And I need to treat this seriously and speak wisdom, but also just be there for the guy, So I love Kazurna in the moments that he's there with Julian, especially in the ones that he's with Julian, but also the ones with Yang, because he has those little moments as well where he's kind of like, hey, Yang. Boop, just goes straight through his defenses and pokes at an important thing. He's like, ow, why would you do that?
Yeah, stop it. Yeah. Yep. But then we also have the whole idea, and I love that they're doing this. Julian, Yang, Frederica, Jessica.
Yep.
Yep.
You called it. That was like the speed at which you were like, oh, that's the connection. I was like, oh my God, that's genius.
Because that was one of the things that always surprised me about the show, is that, one, that Jessica died pretty quickly, but that was something like near the very beginning, as far as like one of the ways that we built sympathy with Yang early on and established him as a character.
Yep.
It's like, so what? Okay, that seems like it's pretty crucial then, because it's done at the beginning.
And history is repeating itself.
History repeats itself, So, yeah.
Yeah, that was a really cool insight, because I had not thought of that until you said that, and then immediately the lights went on, the connections all like all converged, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute, because in my mind, Yang has to die at some point.
Yep.
That's like a guarantee. It's just a question of when. So when I think about the idea that there's a connection forming here in that regard, Julian literally could be Yang at some point, where his friend gets sent off to die and says goodbye to his wife at the time. And Julian then has to take care of... they'll take care of each other.
Oh, definitely.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But it'll be one of those moments where we'll be like, oh no, not again.
Right.
No, this is it. Like, we'll see it coming probably before it comes.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh.
But, so...
Yeah.
Great episode. I'm very excited to see how the rest of the battle goes.
Fine here. I give him a 100% chance of surviving this engagement in general.
Because they need to actually...
I said it again.
Because they need to actually get married.
In order for the history to truly repeat itself. So that means Yang is going to beat Reinhardt to at least a stalemate here.
I think Jessica was just engaged to what's his name. I think she was just engaged, and they were like gonna get married when he got back.
Oh wait, I think you're right.
Like, and that was the whole thing. No. At the very end, before he left, he was like, he wanted to make sure that everything was fine with Yang and everything, because they had dated previously.
No, I'm in denial again. I'm in denial a lot of shows right now. Nope.
Yeah.
But I've been right. I've been right recently. So I give Yang a 100% chance of survival rate, and I give Reinhardt downgraded to a 69% chance of survival rate.
I'll give him...
Because there's 69 episodes left.
Depending on... I'm really curious how the whole thing goes with what the fleets did after they left,
Yeah, because we don't know.
Because that could change a lot.
Wait, Jacob, we weren't shown the plan's full things there, which means it has to work. We were told enough about what it is, but the actual tactics of it, we weren't shown anything there.
They were going to leave and come back. I mean...
That's it. That's it, though. We didn't know where they went. We didn't know what the conditions were for their return.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that means they will return at the very least.
Sure. But it might not be enough, is what I'm thinking. Because if
I could see Reinhardt getting hurt here.
If Ruhenthal and Mittermeier are the closest ones, right, and they're the most effective ones, we've seen in just the previous episode what happens when reinforcements come in and they're staggered, right? So I would not be surprised if Ruhenthal and Mittermeier just don't show up, and then, the reinforcements keep coming in, but it just doesn't end up being enough.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
I just don't want to... I don't want to admit that's a possibility.
But we know the Empire's going to win.
Yeah.
Reinhardt might not necessarily be alive for it, but the Empire is going to win.
Yeah.
So...
But, y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there. And all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us and the community there about this show, about anime in general. And also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
Indeed. We stream Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific time for each of those days. Monday, we do podcasts. Tuesday, we do One Piece dramatic manga readings.
Yes.
And then Wednesday and Friday, Caleb does gaming.
Right, I'm playing Hades right now.
And then Thursday, I do gaming, which right now is Persona 4 Golden.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.